Good morning, students. Welcome to the subject of environmental science. Today and for the rest of the lectures to come in the couple of days ahead, we'll be dealing with unit number 4. That is going to be the last unit of your syllabus, that involves disaster management and the environmental management in detail, right? That is EMS in detail, which we have already introduced ourselves to. Now this is the 4th unit that we are dealing. The A part is all about disaster management, right? Here we will be, in this particular chapter, we will be learning what is disaster management in general, and then we'll be checking out with the few of such kind of natural disasters which are occurring frequently in India, like say cyclone, earthquakes, floods, storms, landslides and tsunami, right? So in each of the lectures to come, we'll be dealing at least 1 or 2 disasters, and we'll be checking out what is this disaster all about. A disaster શું છે, right? લગભગ એના causes શું છે, effect શું આવે છે, and how it can be mitigated. Mitigated means એને કેવી રીતે આપણે ઓવરકમ કરી શકીએ, એના માટે આપણે શું પ્રિપરેશન કરી શકીએ. That will be learning here in disaster management as a unit, right? So let us begin from here. I sincerely suggest you to keep your text before you while doing this unit, so that we can relate it well. So in text almost everything has been provided. Here I'll be giving the overview, because this is not a technical thing that can be taught. We have been checking out with different disasters at different point of time, right? And this is overall a kind of short note that you may be writing for the, as you used to write in the school days. The same way we'll be writing, or we'll be trying to understand about the disaster in detail with different aspects. So I wish that the things to be explained is less, because it is very it is very practical, and it is facts that we are going to learn, and that you can do it even from your texts, right? So there is not much to be explained here except the introductory portion, and then we'll just try to see what is the disaster, or what are the disaster in each lecture, right? We all know that there are so many states in India that are living under the threats of earthquake, maybe the landslides, maybe floods, cyclones, tsunami, etc., right? There are the facts that has been given in your text, that approximately 22 Indian states are prone to disasters. That means 22 states are such all over India which are very prone to disasters. One or the other disaster often happen and frequently happen in, or is caused in this kind of states, right? Because of the irregularity of the monsoon in India, floods create a lot of disaster, we have seen, right? And almost in Ganga Brahmaputra river ranges, these 60 which carries almost 60% of the total river flow, right? There this kind of floods is often observed, right, or often seen. So India is also having a big coastline, a very long coastline. It is much exposed to cyclones also on the say coast of Arabian Sea or Bay of Bengal. You know, it is a peninsula, right? So from the 3 sides, India is being covered with the ocean, or it is having a long coastline. So what happens is it gets more prone to the disaster like cyclones also. So apart from 6 major cyclones prone regions, Indian Ocean is one of them in the list, right? Generally it occurs in the month of April, May, when almost the monsoon is about to start, and it is often seen during the time of October, December. So what happens is that we are or India as a country is prone to cyclones, means we often get to see cyclones, right? Approximately 80% of the total cyclone hits the east side of the country. So this is what happens. Another major destructive natural disaster that we have seen is the earthquake, which comes up without any warning, right? So it can so it hardly gives us the time for any kind of preparation. Mostly it has been seen that Himalayan region is the most vulnerable area in the country. That means it is the most prone region of the country where this kind of earthquakes occur. right? Post disaster management, that is we call it reactive mechanism, involves dealing with natural disasters by assistance like giving the warnings, communication, firefighting, medical shelter, etc. That means disaster management, see, nobody can predict everything, or nobody can tell or warn us earlier that howsoever the research department may be strong, yes, it can warn us and it can just avoid major destruction. But many a times it is the reactive mechanism, that means after the disaster occurs, that few disaster management has to be done. So it is all about that what kind of measures can be taken up, how it can be mitigated, that means how it can be consoled or how the problem can be resolved. So what is disaster mitigation or what is disaster management? If we are trying to understand, then it is a process or strategy that is implemented before or during or after any type of catastrophic event that takes place. That means natural disaster, if it takes place, then at the time of, during, or before or even after these event happens, or these say disaster happens, it is a process of strategy through which a few steps are taken up, and then the threat or maybe the effect, post effect, can be reduced. So this process can be initiated whenever anything threatens to disrupt normal operations or puts the people lives at risk. So when you feel that yes, the people's lives are at the risk due to any natural calamities or natural disaster, then at that time such kind of disaster management starts, which is a process, or it takes up a few steps, maybe before, like warning, preparing the people for it, maybe shifting the people from the dangerous place to safe places, like that, or during the catastrophe also, or during the event also, maybe during the disaster also, they are there to help, right? And even after that, after the disaster or after the say calamity takes place, there are steps taken up by them, by the disaster management, to see that the effect of or adverse effect of the kind of event can be reduced and the lives of the people can be saved, right? So this is all about disaster management. There is one more definition given, that it is the creation of plans, means it creates the plans through which the communities reduce the vulnerability to hazards and cope up with disaster. What happens is they prepare such kind of plans so that the people community can be made safe, and they can be helped to overcome the disaster, right? So disaster management does not eliminate the threat. We must understand this, that disaster management is not there to eliminate means you cannot cancel, or you cannot just see that this will come to an end because disaster management is there, because it is a natural calamity. Nobody can stop except nature, right? But what it does is that it focuses on creating such kind of plans so that it helps to reduce the effect of disaster, so that the disastrous effect can be reduced. Yes, that can be done, but no disaster management can stop the natural calamity. This one must understand. So an organization and management of resources and responsibilities for dealing with all the humanitarian aspects of emergencies, in particular preparedness, response and recovery, in order to lessen the impact of the disaster. That means what is the work of disaster management? Then it is such a kind of organization, or it can be such a kind of resource through which what happens is during the time of emergency, especially during the natural calamities, what happens is it helps us to prepare ourselves. That means prepare the people, it gives the responses if anything goes wrong, and it helps to recover the loss also, and it helps to lessen, that means it helps to reduce the impact of whatever the disaster is being caused. So this is the work of disaster management, right? Here we will try to see what is the disaster mitigation, right? What is mitigation? Mitigation means to minimize the negative impact of the natural disaster. Remember this, that mitigation means to minimize એટલે ઓછામાં ઓછી નેગેટિવ ઇમ્પેક્ટ, એડવર્સ ઇમ્પેક્ટ, વિપરીત અસર કોઈ પણ કુદરતી હોનારતની આવે એ જોવાનું કામ છે, દેટ ઇઝ સેડ ટુ બી મિટિગેશન, રાઈટ. ઇટ ઇન્વોલ્વ સસ્ટેનેબલ એફર્ટ્સ ટુ રિડ્યુસ ડેન્જર ટુ હ્યુમન લાઈફ એન્ડ રિકવર પ્રોપર્ટી. એનું કામ શું છે તો કે સતત એવા પ્રયત્ન કરે છે જેના દ્વારા ડિઝાસ્ટર મિટિગેશન એવા પ્રયત્નો કરે છે જેના દ્વારા ધ ડેન્જર ટુ હ્યુમન લાઈફ કેન બી રિડ્યુસ્ડ, અને એની જે પ્રોપર્ટીને નુકસાન થવાનું છે અથવા તો થઈ ગયું છે એને આપણે રિકવર કરી શકીએ. ઇટ ઇઝ અ પ્રોએક્ટિવ એપ્રોચ. દેટ મીન્સ ઇફ એનીથિંગ happens and then we take the action, that is said to be reaction, right? But when we say proactive means beforehand, પહેલાં જ આપણે એવી તૈયારી કરીએ છીએ, પ્રિપેર્ડનેસ રાખીએ છીએ, સો દેટ ઇન અ લોંગ ટર્મ the people or the community can be benefited, or maybe they can be made aware about the effects of these kind of say natural disasters, right? So this is all about disaster mitigation. Again, as you can see it on the slide, disaster mitigation measures are those that eliminates, as I told you, the impact, and it reduces the risks, right? See, a few facts have been taken up here, that according to Himachal Pradesh Disaster Management Authority, this has been taken from the valid site, mitigation means the lessening of the limitation of adverse impact of the hazards and related disasters. Thus the adverse impact of hazards often cannot be prevented fully, but their scale or severity can be substantially lessened by the various strategies and action. As I told you earlier also, that disaster management નો અથવા disaster mitigation નું કામ એની ઇમ્પેક્ટ જે છે નેચરલ ડિઝાસ્ટરની, જે કુદરતી હોનારત થાય છે એની જે ઇમ્પેક્ટ છે, એની અસર છે, એને ઓછી કરવાની છે, ન કે એને ફૂલ્લી પ્રિવેન્ટ કરવાનું. એ કોઈના પણ હાથમાં નથી, પણ એની જે અસર છે એને જુદી જુદી સ્ટ્રેટેજીસ, એક્શન્સ અથવા પ્લાન્સ દ્વારા આપણે મિટિગેટ કરી શકીએ અથવા ઓછી કરી શકીએ, એ કામ છે. સો મિટિગેશન મેઝર્સ એન્કમ્પાસીસ એન્જિનિયરિંગ ટેકનિક્સ એન્ડ હેઝાર્ડ રેસિસ્ટન્ટ કન્સ્ટ્રક્શન એઝ વેલ એઝ ઇમ્પ્રુવડ એન્વાયરમેન્ટલ પોલિસીસ એન્ડ પબ્લિક અવેરનેસ. સો વોટ હેપન્સ અંડર ધ ડિઝાસ્ટર મેનેજમેન્ટ, દેટ અથવા તો ડિઝાસ્ટર મિટિગેશન શું કરે છે તો કે જે પણ મેજર્સ છે એ ટેકનિકલ મેજર્સ છે કે કન્સ્ટ્રક્શન રિલેટેડ મેજર્સ છે કે એન્વાયરમેન્ટલ પોલિસીસ કે પબ્લિક અવેરનેસ રિલેટેડ જે પણ મેજર્સ છે એને સુધારી શકાય, એને વધારે સ્ટ્રોંગ બનાવી શકાય, સો દેટ ડ્યુરિંગ ધ ટાઈમ ઓફ નેચરલ કેલામિટીઝ પીપલ આર મેડ અવેર, પોલિસીઝ વર્ક આઉટ, એન્ડ પીપલ કેન લાઇવ્સ કેન બી સેવ્ડ એન્ડ their property can again be recovered. It should be noted that in the climate change policy, mitigation is defined differently, being the term used for reduction of greenhouse gas emission that are the source of climate change. See, climate change ના સંદર્ભમાં મિટિગેશનને જુદી રીતે જોવામાં આવે છે કે એનું કામ ખાલી એટલું જ છે કે ગ્રીન હાઉસ ગેસનું એમિશન જે થાય છે એને કેવી રીતે રિડ્યુસ કરવું, બરાબર. તો દેટ ઇઝ altogether a different thing that is related to climate change. Here when we are talking about the natural disasters, then we can try to see, or we can try to understand this, that mitigation નું કામ શું છે તો કે it minimizes the negative impact of the natural disasters, right? Here's few example of mitigations have been given. Again, the sources from the gktoday.in site, right? See, what happens is, in the aftermath of the Chennai floods, see, these are the examples that what mitigation does, or mitigation kone kehvaય તો કે after the Chennai floods, the Tamil Nadu state government has decided to provide financial support to any new project aimed at reducing the risk of the floods. That means this is the mitigation step taken, that Tamil Nadu state government will provide financial support to all the people who are victims of this kind of floods. So that is mitigation measure. Next is, after the super cyclone of 1999, Odisha government decided to construct the multi-purpose cyclone shelters along the Orissa coast to provide safe shelters to the people during the floods and cyclones. See, again, this is the mitigation step taken up by the Odisha government, so that whenever these kind of cyclones occur, this step has been taken up after 1999 as a mitigation step, or mitigation step, or maybe measure, right? What has been done, multi-purpose cyclone shelters have been created on the coast of Orissa, so that the people who are prone to such kind of cyclones can be provided with the safe shelters, right? In October 2015, 11 mountain states of India, that is see, all those states that are considered to be mountainous states, they are adopting a building code separate from the rest of the India via a resolution, right? That means they are typically constructing the construction of houses or maybe buildings, so that this, because this area is such kind of area which is prone to earthquakes, so such kind of measures can be taken up by the government, or maybe by the state government, or maybe at the times by the organization, so as to help to reduce the impact. Mind you, impact એટલે અસરને ઓછી કરવાની, એડવર્સ ઇમ્પેક્ટ જે આવે છે અથવા તો વિપરીત અસર જે કોઈ પણ નેચરલ કુદરતી હોનારતની કે નેચરલ કેલામિટીની આવે એને ઓછી કરવા માટેના જે સ્ટેપ્સ લેવાય એને ડિઝાસ્ટર મિટિગેશન કહેવાય. Right, here few tools of mitigation has been given, like 4 sets of tools that can be used to prevent the mitigate this to or mitigate the disasters, like hazard management or vulnerability reduction. That means આવા steps લઈ અને disaster management કામ કરે છે. રાઈટ, ઇકોનોમિક ડાયવર્સિફિકેશન આપી શકાય, પોલિટિકલ ઇન્ટરવેન્શન અને કમિટમેન્ટ્સ દ્વારા જે લોકોને નુકસાન થયું છે that can be reduced, public awareness can be created, and the first to apply exclusively to the disaster caused by the natural phenomenon, while later two are such which are used to mitigate any other hazards. પહેલા બે જે છે એ કેવા છે, જે ખરેખર કોઈ નેચરલ ડિઝાસ્ટર થાય તો એના માટેના સ્ટેપ્સ છે જે આપી શકાય છે, એવા ટૂલ્સ છે through which that can be done, right? So here we can see that it means to minimize the negative impact. We have seen what is disaster management, and few of the guidelines have been provided કે mitigation program હોય તો એની કઈ ગાઈડલાઇન શું ફોલો કરે છે, તો it helps to ensure faster recovery after the disaster impact. As I told you, જે કદાચ એમને રિકવરી ના આવત પણ મિટિગેશનના સ્ટેપ્સને લીધે ડિઝાસ્ટર થઈ ગયું, હોનારત થઈ ગયું, પછી એ ફાસ્ટ રિકવરી માટે સ્ટેપ્સ લઈ શકાય. It helps to protect the natural and cultural assets of the community. It also tries to see that cultural and natural assets can be protected, right? Again, it helps to implement the hazard reduction faced by the affected people, અને જે લોકો affected છે એ લોકોને વધારે સારી રીતે બધી ફેસિલિટીઝ પ્રોવાઈડ કરી શકાય, સો દેટ the hazard reduction hazard can be reduced, or say danger can be reduced to the affected people, right? It again allows for the participation, like participants as partners, like between government, corporates, NGOs, community elements, એ લોકોને પણ allow કરે છે to participate, so that even they can suggest and they can provide with such kind of mitigation measures, right? And this is all about the mitigation or disaster mitigation, right? So what we have to accept is that in the recent times the frequency of natural disasters like floods and cyclones have increased greatly, right? And the human activities are responsible for that. So a well functioning warning system may minimize the disaster, and that is why we need disaster management, because this kind of natural calamities have increased because of global warming or because of any of human activities or maybe natural activities. એને ઓવરકમ કરવા માટે most of the time we need disaster management, which tries to minimize the post disaster destruction. Therefore, what disaster management does, it tries to warn, it tries to make people aware, forecasting કરે છે, relief આપે છે, જરૂર પડે rehabilitation કરે છે, reconstruction કરી આપે છે. So it needs a proper planning and support of various researchers. So it is not done haphazardly. In fact, there is a team of researcher, experts, scientists, administrators, volunteers and community at a large to take up with such kind of post disaster steps, right? Even the coordination is essential from the government agencies and NGOs, so even they help the disaster management in different ways. Though there is availability of efficient warning system today, still it is not capable enough to safeguard, because India is a big country. There are as many as 22 states, as we have seen, which are vulnerable to different kind of disasters, means which are prone, જ્યાં વારે ને વારે કાંઈક ને કાંઈક ડિઝાસ્ટર ઊભા થતા હોય છે. તો ત્યારે દરેક વખતે કદાચ વોર્ન ન પણ કરી શકાય, પણ ક્યારેક this disaster management is not enough to safeguard, right? Anyhow, this disaster management have helped a lot in the Indian states to take care about the post effects of the some kind of say natural disasters or natural calamities that often happen in the country. So as you can see it on the slide, we are going to see few of the commonly occurring disasters in India. One of them is cyclone. રાઈટ. સો વોટ ઇઝ સાયક્લોન? વી ઓલ નો વાવાઝોડું જેને આપણે કહીએ એને સાયક્લોન કહેવાય. રાઈટ. તો સાયક્લોન ઇઝ અ કાઇન્ડ ઓફ say an atmospheric system characterized by rapid inward circulation of air masses about a low pressure center, usually accompanied by the stormy, often destructive weather. Cyclones circulate counterclockwise in the southern hemisphere. That means cyclone એટલે વાવાઝોડું તો લો પ્રેશર બેલ્ટમાં આવી ટાઈપનું વાવાઝોડું એન્ટી ક્લોકવાઇઝ movement of air is created, right? Generally the speed of cyclone is more than 60 kilometers per hour. You must be listening this in the news, and we all have experienced it some or the other time. This cyclone. So cyclone is not a new calamity for us. We all have experienced it. Here the facts have been given about the cyclone, that generally the speed of the cyclone is more than 60 kilometers, in which strong winds, what happens is strong winds blow, right? And it's in a spiral kind of shape around the center and rotates counterclockwise in the counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere and clockwise in the southern hemisphere. Means in different hemisphere it has got different type of movement. The cyclone originates over the sea and travels about 500 kilometers per day, left with great heat energy, right? So very heavy cyclone contains energy about few hydrogen bombs, and that may create a lot of destruction to almost in the range of 150 to 1000 kilometers, and its effect is spread across thousands of kilometers on the ocean surface. So that is why cyclones are a very dangerous kind of natural calamity, because it blows with heavy wind and it has a very great heat energy. Moreover, cyclones can be created in the ocean, but it goes beyond thousands of kilometers of the ocean surface also, and it comes to the land area also and creates heavy kind of say destruction to the people living on the land also. Here the tropical cyclone is very common. What is tropical cyclone? Then we can say that a cyclone in which the winds around the low pressure area reaches up to 62 kilometers per hour is known as tropical cyclone. It is characterized or categorized between 1 to 5 on the basis of wind speed. That means 60 to 220 kilometers. When the wind speed is 60 kilometers, it is tropical cyclone. When it is beyond that, it is severe cyclone storm. It is even when beyond then very severe, and when the wind speeds is more than exceeds 220 kilometer per hour, then it is known as super cyclone storm. That means different types of names have been given depending upon the speed of the cyclone, and these type of cyclones are known as tropical cyclone. Right. Now what happens because of this cyclone? An eye is created, right? Then a very high level cyclone develops a calm center called eye. That means if the it creates a hole like thing, eye like thing, and around it there is a ring of hurricane winds are created, and generally this is known as eye of the cyclone. This eye is an indication of the strong winds around the center. Sometimes double eye is also seen, which indicates very strong winds and high intensity, right? Eye like structure is created around which the wind blows, and it's a low pressure belt, right? Or it's a low pressure area, and it may once two eyes are seen or double eye can be seen, that means it indicates very strong winds and high intensity. These can be predicted by the weather department. Eye wall is the most critical element of storm, includes heavy rains. What happens because of that? Cyclones, the effect will be there. Then it can be heavy rains that can be caused, even the high speed of winds and storm can be created, right? So this is how the tropical cyclone or maybe the cyclone creates the destructions, right? It may be right, it may be creating, or it may be going, because from 150 kilometers to 1000 kilometers, that means it creates a lot of destruction wherever it passes, right? It also picks up the energy from the water of the ocean when it moves, and that is why it is very dangerous. In India, from Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea. Every every year, 2 to 3 such kind of cyclones have been noticed. Severe cyclone ranges from 5 to 6 tropical cyclones, right? So what is the effect? That the main threat of the cyclone are heavy rains, strong winds, and tides that will create serious threat to the people who live around the coastal area, or even if they are not living around the very much coastal area, even then they are prone to such kind of effects, right? So these type of threats can be caused. There can be strong wind, there can be heavy rainfall because of the cyclones, or there can be the heavy tides, right? High tides may be noticed. These all creates lot many problems to the people living on the coastal area also, and moreover it can be even the effects to the people living away from the coastal area. We have seen lot many times. Now how these, we have seen how it is created, how the cyclone is created, where it is created in India, right? Here we are going to check out how it can be mitigated. That means what steps or measures can be taken up. Then you can educate and train the people accordingly. Early warning system can be there. You can have the designing, or maybe the permanent houses can be there, so which can withstand such kind of cyclones, right? We can have the developing cyclone shelters for the community, as we saw earlier in the example that Odisha government has declared after 1999 natural calamity or cyclone, that they'll provide such kind of shelters. Or maybe shelter belts can be created by tree plantation to minimize the impact of such strong wind or tides, right? Even the restrictions for industries is there. Residential areas are made to establish more than almost 10 kilometers away from the sea coast. So such kind of steps can be taken up. You cannot avoid, mind you, with the mitigation we can only reduce the impact. We cannot avoid the natural calamity, and that should be kept in mind, right? The next that we are going to do today is about the earthquake. The next calamity that will take up is earthquake, right? So as far as the earthquake is concerned, what is that earthquake? We all have experienced some or the other times, right? We have seen the tremors, we have experienced the tremors, and those are considered to be earthquakes are measured on Richter scale, and higher the Richter scale, the severity of earthquake can be noticed, right? So earthquake means what? A sudden kind of violent shaking of the earth ground, typically causing a great destruction as a result of the movement within the earth's crust or volcanic action, right? It is also known as quake, tremor, or trembler. These are the different words for earthquake. So it happens when two blocks of the earth suddenly slips over one another. So when tectonic plates either dash with each other, or when it passes from one to the another, it slips over the other one, such kind of earthquakes takes place, right? So that is what is a phenomenon that occurs without warning. That is the worst part of it, because we'll never come to know about see, when weather forecasting is there, cyclones we can come to know, maybe floods, rainfall we can come to know, but earthquake is such a kind of calamity which gives no warning, right? It comes and then we have to take the post actions. It does not warn us. An earthquake is a phenomenon that occurs without warning and involves violent shaking of the ground and everything over it, right? So it results from the release of accumulated stress of moving lithospheric or crustal plates. As I told you earlier also, the earth's crust is divided into 7 major plates, and that are about 50 miles thick, which move slowly and continuously over the earth's interior, and several minor plates are there. Earthquakes are tectonic in origin. That means that is the moving plates are responsible for the occurrence of such kind of violent shakes. I told you, when such kind of plates dash with each other, or maybe when they sleep over each other, such kind of tremors can be noticed, right? The occurrence of earthquake is in a populated area may cause numerous kind of casualties. Means many people can die because of the earthquake, and the history is great evidence before us, which has shown that so many casualties are, that means so many death of so many people have already occurred all over the earth because of this calamity, that is earthquake, right? And injuries can be created, even damage to the property is being noticed because of the earthquakes. In India, Gujarat, Assam and Himalayan region are more prone to earthquakes, right? Himalayan region is more prone to earthquake according to one of the sources of ndma.government.gov.in. How much risk in India is noticed has been given in this slide. This is just for your reference, you can check it out later also. Himalayan belt is considered to be the most prone region, right? And that is why now, but in fact we must understand this also, that at one time the region of the country away from Himalaya was considered, but however in the recent past it has been noticed that areas have experienced devastating earthquakes all over the country. So it's not only the Himalayan range that has that is prone to earthquake. In fact, many states are prone to earthquake because of the constructions, maybe because of the human activities, or because of the any of the unnatural natural kind of changes taking place under the earth crust, right? So this is what happens. These are few of the kind of effects that has been taken up. This is just for your information, you can refer it later on also. So the increase in the earthquake risk is due to a spurt in the development activities driven by, because we take up with lot of urbanization, economic development is there, right? All over the country there are some kind of constructions which are not actually safe during the earthquake. Such kind of things happens, and that is why the post effect of earthquake can be dangerous. So this is what happens when it comes to earthquakes, right? So increased use of high technology, even the equipment, tools during the manufacturing may create such kind of ground shaking, right? As a result, what happens is loss of human life is there, or there can be severe economic losses because of the building getting collapsed, and so many kind of long term adverse consequences can be there. The very evident Gujarat earthquake on 26th of January 2001 is evident, right? It had the Richter scale of 7.9, which is very high, and it was the second largest earthquake since 1737. So many people lost their lives. The area of Kutch Bhuj region of Gujarat was the epicenter, and from there it struck at almost in the morning, and it has created a lot of problems and a lot of loss to the human lives also, and to the property also all over the state of Gujarat, right? And generally earthquake is for a few seconds, but this lasted for 2 minutes, right? And Gujarat also experienced the aftershock for 1 month over the 700 kilometers from the epicenter. That means from the epicenter till 700 kilometers the tremors were seen or were noticed. Aftershocks were experienced for almost 1 month, right? So that was a real, and it was a big kind of disaster. It was a big earthquake in the history of India and in the world also. Now even the Japan is such kind of country which is prone to earthquakes. Earthquake often or occur frequently here, so it is always important to know about some kind of what kind of precautions can be taken up, because I told you earlier also that there can be no warnings for it, right? We have to take the or we can take the precautions while the earthquakes are occurring, or afterwards we can just remain safe for the same, right? So some of the precautions includes like involved in community disaster training. We can train the people for it, the people living in the earthquake prone areas, or maybe discuss disaster preparedness with the family members, right? They can be prepared for it if needed. Then improve the homes earthquake resilience. That means the earthquake proof homes or constructions can be made, right? The furnitures can be fastened up, anti shatter coating on the glass windows can be done, so that it will not shatter during the time of the earthquake. Such kind of steps can be taken up. uh, as a prepared or precautionary steps. Right now, what can be done during the earthquakes? Those steps have been just we can notice here, that if we are driving the car, then gradually we can reduce the speed. If we feel that there is a kind of earthquake that is being experienced, maintain high grip on the steering wheel, right, and shut off the engine and park the car somewhere, so that we don't have to keep the vehicles in motion. We need to stop somewhere. We can protect ourselves from the falling objects, like say electronic or telephonic poles, trees, and can move to the open safe space. Open space is the considered to be the safest space as far as earthquakes are concerned, because if you are if you are under the shelter, then there are all chances that the roofs may fall, or you may get the injuries because of the heavy furnitures in the house. So moving to the open space is the greatest precaution that can be taken up. We can shut off the gas valves, yes, we can unplug the electric cords, right, and we can escape the routes by opening doors and windows. What is important is to go away from the buildings, high rise building, and make ourselves safe, taking ourselves to the ground, right. Stay away from the houses that have started to collapse naturally. The houses that collapse or can be seen collapsing, we have to be away from that. These are few normal steps, or say very common steps or measures that can be taken up during the time of earthquakes, right. So what we have studied today in this session is what is disaster management, what does it do, what is mitigation. Disaster mitigation is what that we have seen, and we have seen two types of calamities, natural calamities like cyclone and earthquakes, right, and we have tried to find out the facts about it. We have tried to see what is it all about, and how it creates the adverse impact, and how it can be mitigated. That means how the impact of these disasters can be reduced. So when we meet next, we shall be checking out with a few more types of disasters. So until we meet next, it's a goodbye from my side. Thank you. Take care of yourselves.